two gutsy, determined, experienced players who've got winning experience behind them as well, who can help bring these kids on with a lot of knowledge and experience.
I think that let's take the good out of it. The good out of it is there's two players, or three players really, if you look at all three of them, that we're keeping in the game. We're keeping the knowledge within the game. We're spreading that on. They're all perfectly experienced and also have all made mistakes. And I don't think any three of them would argue that. They've all made mistakes, certainly off the field. So if they've truly learned from that, then good luck to them. Let's get them involved. Let's keep them in the game. My slight concern is twofold, really. One, are we going down the football route of, they've played at high level, therefore they must be a good coach? Which, in a sport with more technical nuance and where just shouting at people doesn't work, because we've seen enough of those coaches come and go quickly, are they the right mentality to be a coach? Because I think it's very much a mental thing that you have to be, especially I think working with kids at that age and that stage. You need to be that level head. You need to be showing them the right way, but also being forgiving of them, not bawling them out because they make a mistake. And are these people's characters that we see? I don't see that evidence in what I know of them. It may be privately they are different, but from what I know of them on the field, I'm not sure.
I think with Ben Cockayne in particular, the one thing that I think he brings to the party is he's made that step down. He's played with players who were less than him, and even when he played at the top level, what he did was work hard to prove himself consistently. Yeah. And I think Weller Hierarchy has probably had to do that quite a bit over recent years as well. After that move he had to Leeds, and then I think he maybe thought he'd kind of made it potentially as a top tier player, and it didn't work out that way. And yeah, Joel Tompkins has had a kid now. You'd hope he's matured. I mean, the Wrexham of Wigan stuff happened when he had a kid, so that didn't exactly shine a great light on that. But he's a very, very experienced man. And underpinning all of this, the name that you mentioned in that underpins all of this is John Bastian. And now, whatever you can think about these guys, if they might have made mistakes, and how well will they pass on those, and how well will some of them cope with dealing with young players, maybe not always players who can deliver consistently like they might have been used to at higher levels. What you'll always have is John Bastian underpinning that, and John Bastian understands development of young kids, and I don't think he would let these players get away with not showing the right behaviours to the young kids. He would make sure that the system was changed. These people weren't in prominent roles if they weren't going to deliver what he wanted them to deliver. I'd be, as a Hull KR fan, confident of that, and because Hull KR need to develop their own players as far as I'm concerned, because recruitment hasn't necessarily always gone exactly great guns, and so long term develop your own players is the best way. And if you've got, I keep looking at the fact that Joel Tompkins is a winner who's played internationally in two codes, and he's a good player. He's a good player.
Yeah, exactly. The skill of all three of them is undoubted. The on the field skill. It's whether that translates into coaching. It's something I talk about and I'm quite close to, is that playing skill and coaching skill are two entirely separate things. It helps a lot of the time if you've played at a decent level, if you've got that, because a lot of the qualities are similar. But I can certainly think, certainly from a volleyball example, please mark that your bingo cards accordingly, that
ding, ding.
That the best players and the best coaches are very different people, and the best coaches and the best developers of players, certainly at a junior level, have very different qualities. And I think that actually being a junior coach is very different to being a coach at a senior level. I think senior level, where you are just motivating and playing, you're not doing some of the technical aspects. You're also not doing as much of the man management, kind of putting the arm around the shoulders, because there's more options, but B, if a player doesn't work out, you can move them on or whatever. You don't have to work with them over a long period. Whereas the kids at that level, you've got a responsibility there because it's their future that as much as anything, and it's their general well-being is much more affected by how you treat them. So you have to be that bit more careful.
Well, there's lots of experience there in that group of 4, so hopefully that will work out well for Hull KR in the long term. Salford, what have they been up to?
Salford have appointed former Leon Toronto head coach Paul Rowley as a coaching consultant. Rowley, who's 44, has been assisting coach Ian Watson during training in recent weeks and has now been brought on in an official capacity.
I think as long as he doesn't interfere too much with the great work that Ian Watson's been doing, then I don't think it's any harm in getting someone to assist him, because they've lost Gleeson, haven't they, who was a big part of that backroom team. Salford actually today as well, just before we started recording, Tim, have confirmed. I mean, stand by for this one because it's pretty shocking.
My breath is officially baited.
Yep. Salford have confirmed the signing of Dan Sarginson for 2020.
Whoa! Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. So interesting that they've confirmed it before the end of the season, because I thought that wasn't something that they were going to do. But obviously this one was very well known around parts. And when Salford's senior players are on other podcasts basically saying that it's signed for them for next year without saying it in so many words, the cat was out of the bag, let's say. Good luck to Sarginson. I think he'll be a big player for them, make a big difference. And if they do lose their fullback, then they've got a great replacement there. Otherwise, they've still got a fantastic player to play across that back line.
Yeah. Now, here's the shock news. Do we have to even talk? We do have to talk about it, unfortunately, but I don't want to. Go on, it's your turn.
Bradford say... Andrew Chalmers says that Bradford will leave their 85-year-old Odsal Stadium on the 1st of September to take up a 2-year lease at Dewsbury, although the Rugby Football League must ratify the move, and I'm not sure that they have done so yet. Chairman Andrew Chalmers blamed the cost of rates, rents and maintenance for the decision in a statement. The Rugby Football League own the leasehold for the stadium. Sheffield Eagles will be their last opponents on the above date, the 1st of September. If the move receives approval from the RFL. Chalmers also says the Bulls are in discussion about potential sites for a bespoke new build stadium in Bradford. By new build, apparently it's going to be a boutique stadium, and the Bulls will never play at Odsal again, which is absolutely devastating for all of Rugby League, I would say, if it wasn't just some sort of chess play kind of manoeuvring and manipulation of things to get a more favourable deal for himself. Anyway, Tom Andrews...
Tom Andrews
said, haha, someone called Gobby Chalmers' bluff, saving them 30k a game, ? That's only 1,500 fans at £20 a head. The handouts are over, bullies. Hope the fans enjoy what's left. Hope their downfall benefits teams like York, who are making all the right moves. I really hope there isn't a downfall at Bradford, but I don't want to see Andrew Chalmers' pockets lined in any way, because I feel like he hasn't got the interests of the Bradford Bulls or their community or the sport at heart with the way he goes on sometimes. I think the figures that have been thrown around, that basically it's going to save the club £400,000 over the 2 years, that seems remarkable. And I almost would love the Rugby Football League to sell the ground back to Chalmers to see him sell it for building or whatever he wants to sell it for, because then it will show him up to be the charlatan that he is, because I feel that's all he's been trying to angle out of this, is get Odsal and sell it, and then make the council building him a stadium that costs him nothing. This is what I think his game is, and I don't like it. I don't like thinking this of people in our sport, but Tim, I can't help myself but think is a charlatan who's trying to who's only out for himself.
And you've picked up on my point here that the problem with Bradford and that whole, it's the whole people involved currently in that regime, is you can't you don't feel you can trust them from various angles. We feel we've been here too many times in terms of things we're told about Bradford. We need £500,000 or we're going to go bust, or inflated. There's all sorts of things that people connected and on the payroll of that club come out with on a alarmingly frequent basis, claiming that other clubs have got county court judgments and no one can find any evidence of them, and all sorts of things that come out of that machine that you can't trust. And I mean, I've met Andrew Chalmers. He's a charming guy. He's very nice, and on the surface appeared to be a very humble guy. However, the stuff he comes out with, and the whole things that, as you mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago, are things like trying to set up this rebel league.
When he was dead against the Super League.
When he's dead against the Super League doing an identical thing.
Unless they guaranteed that his club would get a certain amount of money, let's not forget. And then he tried to secure a deal, we understand, to be part of some sort of expanded Super League without having to earn promotion based on the size of his club, but the size of his club can't afford to play at the stadium that they've played at all these years. And Tim, it's... I feel really sorry for the Bradford fans and for the people who've, put everything into that club, because I feel like they're being taken for another ride, which is really sad. I really hope not. I really hope this way I feel about this man is completely misguided, and and I hope it's all above board and Rugby League in Bradford survives and everyone gets a good deal out of it, but I don't feel like it's going to be that way, Tim.
Yeah, and there's some things there's some other questions flying around for me as well, because they say it's all about being in Bradford, and that's the thing. So yet they've gone to Dewsbury, and from what you understand from what's come out from the other side of the other arrangement, is that Bradford Park Avenue were willing to discuss terms of coming there. So why did they not do? It doesn't feel on the outside, and I am on the outside of this, I have no inside on. It doesn't feel on the outsides, observing what's gone on, that they've made every effort to keep them in Bradford first before running off down the road to Dewsbury. So,
and it feels like they're trying to now kind of, blackmail's a strong word, but force the hand of the council to provide a new facility for the club that the club won't pay for. And then as a result, they'll have got community stadiums and those sorts of things, but I feel like this is a club that are out for themselves.
Yeah, and then as a result, that on the field they will get, if they get that, if they get their way, they would get a competitive advantage, because they'd be playing in a modern facility that costs them bugger all, that they could then, and that money is only going to end up in two places. One is the back pockets of those involved in the management, and so the second is players ultimately that they end up spending it on.
Well, that's not too bad if it happened that way, but
it's the only two places that money's going. It's not going into securing, it's not going into back into their academy. It's not going to go into securing, more people in the Bradford area getting active. It's not going to, make the community get involved in the club. There's more questions there than just why is odds falling apart. Is why have the numbers dropped?
Well, I think
where are these people
as well? That 2 years away from the city is only going to exacerbate that problem hugely.
Yeah, and as you said a couple of weeks ago, you look at every team who's ever moved away from a area and come back, and it's not just in rugby league; it's happened in football. You look at what happened to Brighton when they went and played at Gillingham. You look at all sorts. There's so many examples of clubs that have moved away from their area, moved away from their heartbeat, because sport and sports attendance is all about habit forming. If you break the habit and you make it harder, even if it might actually be easier, but you make the perception in people's heads that it's harder, people just don't go. They don't persevere.
No one needs less excuses to go to games than rugby league fans, unfortunately, these days, it feels like. Anyway, let's move on to the other side of the Atlantic and the Toronto Wolfpack.
Yes, the source of all evil, the Toronto Wolfpack, have confirmed that Bob Hunter is the club's new chairman and interim CEO. Hunter has worked at a number of Canada's top sport and entertainment facilities and recently worked for MLSE,